In this Animate tutorial, you are going to learn about the different symbols. We have a graphic symbol, we have a movie clip symbol, and we have a button symbol, and they all work a little bit differently. So we're going to start off with the most basic, which is the graphic symbol. I'm going to create a new ActionScript 3.0 file, and I'm going to allow my properties to stay at the default, which is 24 frames per second, and my stage size is 550 by 400 with a white background. I'm going to use my little zoom feature here to show frames so that my entire stage is as big as possible without missing anything. And I'm going to use my first layer on the timeline, and I'm going to go ahead and call it graphic. Now, you can create anything and make it into a graphic symbol. It can be text, it can be shapes, it can be an elaborate drawing. Any of those things can be converted. We're going to start off just by creating a simple sun. So I am going to turn off my stroke, and I am going to get kind of a yellowy orange fill. And I'm going to use my ellipse tool, and I am going to make a circle. Remember that in order to make a perfect circle, you have to hold your shift key down. So I'm going to make it about that size. Now, I made it, and I made it with my object drawing mode turned off, so I actually want to redo that. Sorry. I want object drawing mode on, and I will redo that circle right there. That way I see my blue handles around it. Now, I want to make some rays for my sun, and I want them to be the same color. Again, object drawing mode on, and I'm just going to make a little rectangle right about there. Now, for my rectangle, I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I want to use my selection tool. You see how when I put it on an edge, it gets you the 90-degree right angle. When you put it on a line in the center, you get the curve. I want that 90-degree because if my rectangle is, I'm going to make it an even 30, has a width of 30 pixels, I want to drag this over so that it is pretty much in the center. And then I'll go from the other side and do the same thing, and I might have to, whoops, I might have to zoom in a little bit more. Oops, sorry, I got the wrong tool there. Here we go. And try to get them pretty close to being in the center. And then I can show my frame again, and here I have a nice ray for the sun. Okay? So what I want to do, and actually I'm going to go ahead and change the sun color to a different one real quick just while I get this lined up. I need for my flat part of my ray to be more or less in the center. If I select both, I can use my align panel, and I can align horizontal center, which I think I pretty much got. But the vertical center I can't use because I don't want it to be in the middle that way. So I kind of just have to eyeball it and trust that I see it in the middle there. Okay? So then I'm going to go ahead and copy, paste, and I am actually not copy paste. I'm going to copy and paste in place. That way it puts it right over top of it. But with it still selected, I'm going to go to modify, transform, and I'm going to flip vertical. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the arrows on my keyboard. And if you recall from Photoshop, if you hold shift down while you move them, you can move them at bigger increments. So your arrows on your keyboard move it like 1 pixel at a time. If you hold shift down, I think it's 10 pixels at a time. And kind of line them up so that they're looking like they're got about the same spot there in the middle. Okay? Then you can select both of those, and you select both by holding down the Shift key and clicking on each one. Then I'm going to copy, and again, I want to paste in place. That way they're right over top of it. Then I can use this free transform tool, and if I hold my Shift key down, it does it in 45-degree increments. So I can do a perfect 90 degrees from where it was. And then with this still selected, if I hold down my Shift key again, I can select all 4 rays, copy, paste in place, and I can do it one more time. Actually, instead of doing it 90, I'm going to do it right about there. And then I will copy, edit, paste in place one more time. And there we go. Now I can go back and change my sun, the circle part, to the same color as what's there. Okay? So I have all of these different parts to it. And obviously, if I wanted to make this different, I would want to combine them or group them together. So a command, or sorry, not command, Control G would group it, okay? And that is here under the Modify menu. But instead of just grouping it, I can convert it to a symbol, and that allows me to use multiple instances of it on my document. So if I convert it to a symbol, I'm going to call this sun. Now, in a later part, we're also going to make a movie clip of a sun. So I'm going to call this G for graphic, and then underscore sun. The type needs to be graphic, and you should have a center registration point for this, and then go ahead and click OK. And when it becomes a graphic, you can see that there is now a blue bounding box around it. You can see the registration point here in the center. You can see it in your library. Okay, so see here it says G_sun. That's how we named it, so that we knew it was a graphic, although this little icon right here shows that it's a graphic symbol. Here in the properties, we can see that this is one instance of G_sun. We can see the size and the positioning of it, and we can do other things to it. So if I'm going to go ahead and resize this a little bit. If I wanted to put multiple instances on, I could drag more over from the library, and it keeps the size the same. In my properties, I could do a tint. Let's say I wanted my sun to be a darker color. There it is, and it doesn't change the original one. I could bring over another one and again resize it to any size. I don't even have to keep it in proportion. I could have that size. Okay? And all of it remains unchanged to the original graphic. So this is why it's important to have graphic symbols. I'm going to go ahead and delete all but my first one. And I will resize that one just a little bit, right down there. And I'm going to lock that layer, and I'm going to do a quick save, file save as. Remember that you always need to make it an Animate document first. That is a .fla. I'm going to save it with my period number, last name, and this is going to be symbols, and hit save. And then you can move on to the next, which is going to be creating a movie clip.